This is the insidiousness of cultural Marxism, and it started in the 60s and the 70s, and it has permeated its way through now multiple generations of Americans. And I think we really hit a point maybe 15 or 20 years ago with, I don't like your idea, or I don't agree with your idea, but you're a good person. The left made this personal. It's now more, I don't like your idea, you have a bad idea, you are a bad person. That was the switch. That's how we got to this point. It's not like, oh, I just disagree. The whole like, let's agree to disagree. The left doesn't do that. The left has now made your beliefs are you. If you have bad beliefs, you are a bad person. If your speech is not what I agree with, your speech is hate speech. It's that immediate linkage, and then we've codified laws around it. That's the dangerous part.
All right, guys. Normally I get excited for the weekend, but no. I'm so excited about this election. 12 days to go. So much to happen. We'll talk about this in a little while. I don't know if we're going to get an October surprise or not, but DOJ, maybe this was it. They're going to attack Elon Musk, and I'm not really sure why. The guy who broke the story is going to join us in just a second and tell us what he knows, what this all means. We'll get to that in a second. And then the early vote continues to speak volumes about how well Republicans are doing. But I don't think that we're hearing that story. I wonder why. So much to break down. We've got a lot to get into 12 days out. And we've got, so we will break that all down. Before I get to it, you guys know the October 15th deadline passed. I'm going to be honest with you, I filed my taxes on October 15th because I am horrible. I got behind the curve, but I filed them. But if you didn't do that and your taxes were late or unfiled, I'm just going to tell you this now. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Democrats hired a lot of IRS agents. Those IRS agents are looking for reasons to flag you for an audit. So if you owe money, $5,000, $5 million, who cares, business, personal, and they do come after you, I urge you to touch base with a tax professional. I think the best in the business are the folks at Tax Network USA, tnusa.com/Sean Spicer. I mean, the IRS has the ability to garnish your wages, freeze your bank accounts, even seize property. And so you need professional help. I think these guys are the best in the business. They've recovered over $1 billion for their clients. So if you get a call, a knock, a letter from the tax folks at the IRS, reach out to my friends at Tax Network USA, tnusa.com. Use the full name, Sean Spicer. So it's tnusa.com/Sean Spicer. But trust me when I tell you, do not try to go up against the government by yourself. Does not end well. All right. With that, a couple pieces of housekeeping before we get into it. Next week, the final road to 270 is Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed the one yesterday. You see how much new information is coming in every week with early vote numbers, new data, registration, groups that aren't doing as well in the polling. I mean, the nice thing is it's all going in the Trump direction. You heard what I said about those 4 other states today. This is looking good, but we cannot get excited yet. It's no measuring of the drapes, my friends. We've got to keep our foot on the pedal until next week. I think I've told you this before. Big Election Day special headed your way. We'll do the show, and then we're going 4 hours minimum live from 8 p.m. till at least midnight. We'll be live. We will have guests in studio. We've got a beautiful set that we've got all set up for you. It's going to be amazing. And so join us all election night with insights that you won't get anywhere else. If you're looking for those insights, by the way, you can always sign up for my newsletter, SeanSpicer.com. It's free, or you can be a VIP member and help me pay for my kids' tuition. All right, I want to get into the panel. We've got a great panel here. Before we get into it, one great guy that I want to mention. You've heard me, if you're a loyal member of the show, talk about Leo Grillo. He is a rescuer of animals, but he built the biggest no-kill sanctuary in the world. It's amazing. It's not a shelter. It's a sanctuary. I told the story before. The first time I talked to Leo, he was telling me it's not a shelter because I rescued 3 dogs. So I was like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. He's like, no, go to deltarescue.org, look on my website, look at what I'm talking about. And when you do, you'll get what he's talking about. It's so crystal clear what the difference is. This sanctuary that they've developed at deltarescue.org is amazing. And it's evolved over time, and it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Dogs, cats, horses, abused, neglected, malnutrition animals. If you're an animal lover, it puts a smile on your face to see what Leo Grillo does. But he doesn't take government checks. He needs our help. If you go to deltarescue.org, consider a contribution. But more importantly, at the top, you'll see that tab for the estate planning kit. If you want rescuing animals to be part of your legacy and your estate, please download it. Just go to it, download it, look at it, pray on it, think about it, consider it. Talk to an estate planner, because there's actually some tax benefits that you can probably achieve if you want to help him do this for generations to come. So go to deltarescue.org, hit that estate planning kit, download it, just look at it, review it, make yourself feel good. I know I love the work that they're doing, and I hope to see it around for generations. deltarescue.org. All right. Without further ado, I want to bring in this amazing panel. Tom LoBianco is a national reporter at 24 Site News. He's the one that broke the story about the DOJ going after Elon Musk. We'll talk about that in a second. Charles Moran is the president of the Log Cabin Republicans, and back with us, our good friend Hilton Beckham at America First Policy Institute. She's the communications director there and a former White House staffer for Trump. Guys, good to see you all. Tom, let me just start with you. This story breaks. Like, maybe this isn't the October surprise, but the idea that DOJ is going after Elon Musk. Explain how it happened and what they're saying about what they think he might be doing wrong.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I popped this over at 24 Site News yesterday, and you can go check it out. It's 24sight.news. And it comes out of the public integrity section. It's the election crimes branch. It's the head of the branch, Robert Heberl, wrote the letter to the lawyer, Charles Gober, over at Elon Musk, America PAC. And he tells them, what you're doing with this $1 million sweepstakes voter petition style thing that you've been doing, that violates the law. And gives them cites the code and says you're not allowed to pay voters to either to vote or to register others to vote. And it's important here because, among other things, I took it as a brushback pitch. The way the letter is worded, it says you cannot do this. This is what the penalties are if we find that you have violated the law, but does not go on to say we're prosecuting you. It does not go on to say we're coming after you per se. It was a warning.
But just stop for a second. So Elon, as I've seen him say, it says, hey, if you sign my petition to support the Constitution and you happen to be registered to vote, you can be entered in a sweepstakes to win $1 million. What is that? What you just said to me is not what he's doing.
It gets into, and there's quite a bit of debate about this. I mean, look, if you talk with the America PAC officials and what their comments have been, over the past couple of days while this has been, leading the news, is that exactly that. Look, nothing illegal is happening here. Nobody's paying for votes.
Right.
This is not what's going on. But there have been some interpretations. If you look at Rick Hasson over the election law blog, longtime election law expert, he argues that the requirement that when you sign the petition, I went and checked the website,
right,
that you be a registered voter and that you sign up other registered voters, that is potentially in violation, or as he says, likely in violation of it's like chapter 52, 103, subsection C.
Charles, the funny thing in politics, for years, Democrats have openly kind of bragged about what they call walking around money on election day. And no one's had, and again, that's unequivocally, that's now suddenly they're going after Elon Musk, who has a lottery if you're already registered and you support the Constitution. There's nowhere that he has publicly said, you must vote for Trump. You must, like, this is, I mean, I don't see how you don't view this as like an October surprise by the DOJ and their attempt to stop Elon Musk.
Well, and I think this is the point, like the hypocrisy that the Democrats deploy when things aren't going their way is the crux of this. I mean, it amazes me. We've seen for years Democrats talk about election interference and overturning results and whatnot. And the minute it flips the script on them, it's like their memory completely erases. I mean, we've seen these clips, but the problem is that when you've got mainstream media that's covering for them, and honestly, like at this point, Elon Musk is the biggest. I mean, he's not been just the October surprise for Republicans. He's been the surprise of 2024. And really even this entire cycle, buying Twitter, pulling this thing back to, this huge platform back together, slowly starting to stair step towards Trump, creating that space and that lane for all these tech titans to move towards Trump in Silicon Valley, something we thought would never happen. And then really putting his, neck out on the line, not just like politically and philosophically, but also with, what he's done with Starlink, making sure that those systems are deployed in places in the Middle East, but also in places like North Carolina that were just hit so drastically where we can't trust their traditional systems to work for us. He's deploying technology to do it. Mind you, they were all cheering when he was sending those systems over to the Ukraine when he was involved in pushing back on the Russians. But the minute he starts doing it domestically and it has an appearance of helping Republicans or helping Trump, all of a sudden now we've got a problem and there's an investigation. They didn't have a problem then.
Hilton,
we're doing the same thing.
Yeah. Hilton, I think back 2016, Russia, collusion, right? Hunter Biden laptop last cycle, 51 intel agencies saying it, whatever. And now DOJ weighs in, 12 days out from the election and suddenly says, oh, we're going after Elon Musk. And if you did this, and Tom says it's a brush pitch. I think it's a shot at your head. It's like, we will prosecute you. I get it. But they're basically saying, hey, Elon was on Tucker Carlson's podcast the other day. He said, if I lose, they're coming after me. I think he used the F word. But I'm just saying that, this is them coming after him, saying, dude, we're going to prosecute you because of your support for Donald Trump.
Yeah. The moment he announced that, I was like, ooh, something's coming. They're grasping onto this one. But correct me if I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm putting two cases together that are not similar, but this is giving me Zuckerbuck vibes, how he influenced the elections and pushed money towards, election offices, and that swayed to Joe Biden's favor. And of course, nothing happens to Mark Zuckerberg, but of course, again, I was thinking too, when he first announced that, I was like, oh, is he signing up voters just for Trump? Like, what is this? If you're literally just promoting people to vote, which we should all do as we live in America, it blows my mind that they would make this a huge issue. But of course, the DOJ is going to.
It's actually, I think you put the perfect example, because when Dems do it, right? When Zuckerbuck did it and he just targeted certain areas, it was like, oh, this is cool. When Elon Musk does it, and you're right, he never said you have to vote for Trump, you have to support Trump, you have to be a Republican. He said, if you support the Constitution and are registered. I can't find anything, Tom, that suggests that this is anything other than trying to promote civics.
Well, you look at Jamil Bouie over at the New York Times op-ed page, and Blue Sky tweeted this. I can't call these things anything other than tweets. I don't know what to say. They're not X's. They're not blues or whatever. He tweeted to this point. He said, and obviously Jamil's left. He said exactly Hilton, what you just said. He said, okay, guys, look, go take his money. Everybody on the Democratic side, drive 90 minutes north to Harrisburg or wherever and go take this man's money. So yes, in a very literal sense. Now, what I'm watching for is, and there's this, as Charles noted here, with the tech world coming into this, you get Zuckerbucks, you get Arabella, Soros, that entire world. They've been very active in politics now for a long time. Some of these guys, Thiel's been active for a long time too, but some of them are kind of newcomers to this, and I kind of wonder, how much do they know about this? How much do they? Maybe they slipped. I don't know if it's going to be like one of these like 2016, Comey surprises, but you do kind of wonder about that, because God knows, with, the mega donors pouring in to politics from all sides, that tech world, they love to move fast and break things, and politics, especially the law, is not a thing where you break things without some consequences.
Yeah. But is this like a messaging bill, basically, like when we're on Capitol Hill and we push a bill forward that we know it's not going anywhere, but we want to, get clicks and views for it? Is that basically what the DOJ just did to Elon? Does it really hold any muster?
we need to see if they act on it. I took it to be so. I heard about this on the first time I heard about this. I think was on Monday, and I was shaking the trees, shaking the bushes on this, and finally got somebody to read it off to me, and it read very seriously. So, just somebody who's been covering politics for about 20 years now. I took the Justice Department's handling of this, trying to keep it quiet, not advertising it, to be serious. Now, I mean, how much can you do with that in 2 weeks left in the election? I mean, you can't build a case and build a prosecution in that amount of time. But I did take it to be seriously based on the politics and the DC style messaging of it.
I kind of find it hard to think of it anything other than what Hilton was like a message. Like we want to make sure we throw the pitch because he hasn't incurred, like there's nothing about what he's doing that breaks the law. I want to do a quick rapid fire on a couple things because I want to get to some. Let me ask you this. Do you think in the final 12 days we will see an October surprise, Charles?
No, I don't think that there's anything percolating in a place where we're gonna have that. But
on either side, you don't think there's anything that's gonna pop on against him or her that we're gonna go, oh my gosh.
We've already had natural disasters. Economically, I think things are sound. I mean, quite literally, unless all-out war starts with Iran, in the Middle East. Yeah, like at this point, I mean, we've already kind of like been pushing the envelope on that. More pagers exploding. I mean, I
just don't know. I don't know that like if I woke up and there was like all-out war, I'd be like, because I don't know that benefits anybody. I'm like, it kind of hurts her.
Does that move the needle?
Yeah, I mean, not that that's not a big deal. Don't get me wrong. There's a difference between a big deal and a surprise. Hilton, where do you come down on the October surprise?
I'm not getting the vibes. I don't know. I feel like it would have happened by now. I feel like Kamala's
Well, we're only halfway
enough.
through. All right.
Really?
Actually, we're more than halfway. Yeah, Tom, we got a few days left in October. Do we get a surprise?
I mean, God, Mother Mary, the whole friggin' race has been an October surprise. Yeah. I mean, I feel like the surprise would be some modicum of normalcy and steadiness in this race.
I'm with Charles on this because I feel like like we get to a point where even the media is going to say, hey, we're 7 days out. We can't just pop this. All right, let me ask you the next question. I got my sticker. I've been very proud. I voted early because we've been promoting voting early. So I want to urge everyone to do that. Have you guys voted early? Hilton, have you voted early?
No, I'm going to be a day of voter, but I promote people to vote early. Because I can get off work. I can get off work. I can go to it and then go right to work.
Okay. I still wish you would bank that vote. All right. Tom LoBianco, have you voted early?
Day of. That voting early for me requires a little bit more planning and comprehension than I can muster at the end of this frigging race. So yeah, very much day of.
All right, Charles.
I have my ballot right here, so I am ready to go. My boyfriend lives in the UK and he is actually on his way here right now. So I wanted to actually show him what our ballots look like because their elections are so different there. He's like, wait, you vote on all of these different issues? I'm like, hey, California, we do a little too much democracy with our initiatives and candidates. So it'll be a team effort. But yes, doing that promptly.
All right. So I'm an in-person early voter. We got this is actually probably a nice little. All right. Well, that being said, let me just. I feel like, and Tom, you're the journalist in the group here. We do the morning meeting every morning with Mark Halpert and Dan Turntine, and I've been joking that for 2 cycles at the RNC, I was the guy trying to make excuses for Republicans why the Democrats were cannibalizing their vote. We're going to vote on election day. Da da da. And now we on the Republican side are getting much better numbers. The gap is a lot closer. We are outperforming what we've done in all over the battleground states, right? In Nevada, Georgia, whatever. Why isn't the media like I listen to the morning media and like the bottom line is Democrats, honest Democrats will tell you, yes, we're nervous. Obviously, they can make up the difference. Barack Obama's trying to get, some of these groups motivated and others, right? They know they've got a problem. That's not deniable, right? Why is the media not saying, hey, making a story out of the fact that normally it was Republicans lag in early voting, they hope to make it up on election day. Once Republicans are starting to do well, it's Dead silence. Am I wrong? I mean,
you know what? I mean, this might be part of the reason I'm over on a Substack now. It's part of the world of independent journalism. We have a little bit more freedom in the world of independent journalism. We don't have to chase every. We're not one of the cable nets. Watching everybody else chasing the shiny object. I mean, look, my friend Patrick Finkson and I just launched the Ground Game podcast for the last 2 weeks of the election, and to answer this question, we brought on a very good a Pennsylvania early voting vote by mail analyst. He's prominent on Twitter, Joshua Smithley, and he I thought did a very good job. He's Democratic supporting, but did a very good job looking at the numbers. And his analysis was that Republicans are doing a lot better in Pennsylvania in vote by mail. Democrats are not turning out the same numbers that they were during the pandemic. And in that early voting sphere, and of course, 80% of your paths to 270 start with Pennsylvania. So in most maps, you have to win it. It looks better for Republicans there. Now the flip side of that is you have to look at the entirety of your vote, and his expectation based on the request for ballots and the returns is that you're going to have something closer to like 65% turnout overall. And so then what does that do? He had a really good piece. I'm always looking for these the ghost voters. Who are the ones that we had no expectation of?
But the bottom line is they're lagging behind the key constituencies that they need to. These young votes, black vote, like that. These are folks that they need as part of this coalition that Democrats stitched together, Charles, and they're not getting. I mean, it's a fact. They're not getting the key constituencies they need to get out and vote early.
Well, and I think one of the biggest things to note in here is, again, it's underwhelming expectations. And I think you could say that about the entire short Harris campaign. She's not driving out women the way that she needs to. She's not driving out blacks the way she needs to. Obviously, we're seeing a huge emphasis with Republicans making inroads with Arab American voters in Michigan. There's just underwhelming support. The fact that, Barack Obama had to go out and have this, pep talk with male black voters. I mean, Trump is doing Joe Rogan later this week.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, going to he was in Coachella a week and a half ago. We're going to Madison Square Garden this weekend. I mean, this is like, it's so funny that the Democrats are talking about the vibes and the joy. I'm like, we're having fun on the campaign trail.
Right.
You're out there. I mean, I'm literally just got back from doing a 4-city swing with Trump Unity, which is our broadened LGBT conservative and, pulling in more groups too. Like, they're fun. Like, we are actually having fun out there on the trail. I mean, it's exhausting, but they are inauthentic and they are not genuine on the left. And that is showing up because they're like these constituencies. You can't just sit there and say, oh, the Republicans are lying to you, when black voters and Latino voters and all Americans see that this is all fake.
Right. I want to follow up on that in a second, because you can always tell which team is doing well by how much fun they're having on the other side. If you're behind, you're not excited, you're defensive. Before I get to that, though, I just want to tell you guys, we talk about our values all the time, the issues that are important to us. When you start your morning, I think, a lot of people kick off with a cup of coffee, sometimes later in the day. I love this company that's been sponsoring the show, Wire to Fish. Great coffee. If you're a coffee snob or aficionado, the beans come from Mexico and Guatemala. They're some of the best sourced Arabica beans that you can get. So it's a great thing. But here's the kicker. Instead of going to Starbucks or someplace that literally takes the profits and goes against everything that you stand for, Wire to Fish supports faith-based organizations and clean water initiatives. All things I can get behind. 25% of their profits. Great organization. If you're a coffee lover, but you want great coffee and not feel like you're undermining the values that you support, check out Wire to Fish. Join a community of people that are making a positive impact with their coffee addictions and their love for coffee every day. Head over to wire2fishcoffee.com. It's wire, the numeral 2, wire2fishcoffee.com. Use code WE CARE for 15% off your first order. Again, wired to I need a cup of coffee is what it comes down to. Wire2fishcoffee.com. Use code WeCare for 15%. Hilton, I think the thing that's interesting to me is, to Charles's point, like, we look like we're having fun out there. We're excited for election day. Their side, they're melting down, right? They're still pissed that Trump went to McDonald's. They're talking about Joe Biden saying that Trump should be locked up. Kamala Harris is calling him Hitler. Barack Obama is decrying the fact that we're so toxic and divided. I mean, I'm like, wait a second. You guys sound unhinged and weird, to quote Tim Walz, not us.
Yeah, I know. And the whole, what you guys said about the Joy campaign. I can't believe they even went in that direction to begin with. But the fact that that's pretty much the theme and they've gone downhill from, wherever they think they were. But I think what was crazy when Kamala Harris went on Call Her Daddy, that should have been like the prime spot for her, with like young women talking about women's issues and blah, blah, blah. A lot of people came out and were like, Kamala Harris just cannot vibe with young women. Like, she really flopped in that interview. She showed why she's so unpopular, and people keep wanting to make it about her gender, which means you're losing, by the way. But people keep wanting to make it about her gender. No, it's her personality. It is a turn off. The way she laughs, the way she talks, the way, she's that friend that you don't even want to ask a question because you're going to get a 10-minute answer and you're not going to really understand what they said anyway. That is Kamala Harris, and people just keep wanting to make it about the isms, the sexism, the misogyny, or whatever. So I'm off my soapbox now.
No, stay on it.
What, can I throw a question in here? And this is a question I throw at a lot of people. It's actually something I've kind of wondered myself throughout this race. Why is this country so evenly split this election? I have never seen anything this tight before. Why? Why?
Charles?
I mean, I think you have such a split now because you have somebody who is as big of a disruptor as Donald Trump is, and you've got the people on the left who just fundamentally disagree with his worldview, and then you have common sense reigning on the right, but then you also have a sliver of folks on the right who are displaced by what Donald Trump is doing in the Republican Party. And this is like one of the most important things that I hit upon when I talk to people about this. Donald Trump has fundamentally dislodged three major power bases from the Republican Party. That's hardline social conservatives, that's the economic globalists, the people who want cheap labor and no borders and, everything, corporatist everything. And then you've got the neocons, the ones who are drop bombs first, ask questions later. Those three constituencies have basically had a stranglehold on the Republican Party for the last 30 years. So you've got traditional Democrats who are completely triggered by somebody like Donald Trump because of who he is and his rhetoric and his bluntness. And then you've got these constituencies in the Republican Party who have been completely pushed out. And it is very clear now. And this is why it's even tighter, because you've got these never Trumpers, and then you've got, the left. And that's why it's gotten even closer versus where, like, under any, look at even in the campaign we had in the primary of like, oh, well, if you just nominated Nikki Haley or you nominated some other Republican, you'd have all total unanimity. I'm like, yeah, because they pull in those special interests in the Republican Party that have been getting rich or being powerful off of this. Donald Trump is the one who actually has completely shifted the power dynamics within the GOP to something that is authentic and actually looks after the people instead of the special interests.
And can I also add to, I think there's such a hard line, or it's split 50-50. I think it's so unfortunate that so many of our colleges and like the Hollywood, everything have just been taken over by liberals. And that's why we see so many young and up and coming people so brainwashed, because there's things that are just common sense, especially when it comes to gender. The fact that we're having confusion over pronouns and how, biology just shows you where our country's at. And it really comes down to colleges brainwashing kids. And I think they've all grown up now. And now we're seeing this hard shift between, common sense and non-common sense, or brainwashed and non-brainwashed.
Yeah, I think, Tom, I would actually combine what Hilton and Charles both said, right? I think the problem is that the institutions, I honestly mean this, I don't blame a lot of liberals for what they think, because if you wake up and watch CNN and read the New York Times and go to work, right? You think about that, like think about that what both of them just said, right? So you wake up, you've got CNN on the morning of the Today Show, and you've got the New York Times in front of you, and you're like, wow, Donald Trump's a horrible person. He loves Hitler, and people need to be respected. And then you go to work, and they're telling you about diversity, inclusion, equity. Some people, and you're like, wow. I mean, like if this is what you're indoctrinated with, right? And you think about all these institutions that are telling you the same thing: academia, Hollywood, the media, big tech, corporate America. You start to go, okay, all right, I got it. I'm bought in. And by the way, if you don't buy in, we're going to screw you. We'll cancel you. We will minimize you. We will make fun of you for not buying into this agenda. And you go, okay. And then Charles pointed out that there's a lot of people who say, I'm not buying in. I'm willing to stand up. And those are people on the right. But I say this all the time to people, and they don't understand this. Like, if you are a conservative, like you have to be willing to brace for, being treated a certain way, because the every institution is against you. And so I think that's part of it. But I think as liberals, I mean, I hear a lot of these folks who say, God, during COVID, I finally had the time to hear what was happening in the schools, or I learned about this, and they've started to come on over. But, I honestly believe our institutions are what are dividing us. That's my 2 cents.
I'm legit wondering if there's a middle in the country right now, the way I look at things. Like, I'm not even sure what the middle, used to be. I mean, I think it used to be like that Reagan Clinton style of things.
I used to be called, I mean, Trump said this the other day on one of the podcasts. It's called common sense. I mean, Hilton brought this up. The idea that you are minimized for saying, God, I want my daughter to play on a team without a dude on it, or I want my daughter to be able to go into a locker room without a guy in there. Like that used to be called common sense. And the idea of working hard in America and getting ahead. And now, like, we're told that that's not, what is it? There's no or equity, justice, or whatever. It's like, I mean, I was listening to a podcast the other day that said eating healthy is not social, is in conforming with social justice. And it's like, are you got to be kidding me? Like healthy lifestyles are undermined by social justice because it's unfair to people of color. Like what?
But this is the extension of that. This is the insidiousness of cultural Marxism. And it started in the 60s and the 70s, and it has permeated its way through now multiple generations of Americans. It changes the sheer definition. And I think we really hit a point maybe 15 or 20 years ago with, I don't like your idea, or I don't agree with your idea, but you're a good person. The left made this personal. It's now more, I don't like your idea. You have a bad idea. You are a bad person. That was the switch. That's how we got to this point. It's not like, oh, I just disagree. The whole like, let's agree to disagree. The left doesn't do that. We do that because we're balanced people who understand that there are different values that you bring to things, but the left has now made your beliefs are you. If you have bad beliefs, you are a bad person. If your speech is not what I agree with, your speech is hate speech. It's that immediate linkage, and then we've codified laws around it. That's the dangerous part. That's like that. I run the nation's largest and oldest organization of gay conservatives, and we fundamentally don't support, quote, hate crime laws around these things, because you're trying to assign a value to a thought or speech. Speech does not beat people in the face. Thoughts don't. Actions do. So let's prosecute actions. But like, what are your motivations for doing things? Your motivations don't do that. I have a lot of motivations to do things, some positive and negative in my life, that don't actually translate into actions. I wish some of my positive motivations, like going to the gym on a daily basis or maybe eating right, would manifest themselves into actions, but they don't. And just like that, but in law, and what the left has been able to do is they've assigned value to your thoughts and your motivations. And that it has been a gentle slide. You hit upon what happened, during COVID. Parents were starting to actually pay attention to what the schools were teaching them. And that was the full halt. We saw it with, critical race theory. That turned into radical gender theory, which is what we're dealing with now in Log Cabin. So this was the switch. And if I had been talking about cultural Marxism 4 years ago, I would have said, you're crazy. Like, get off the conspiracy theory train. And it comes up in everything I do now because it's so insidious and it's now so clear and we all see it.
And I have to say too, I think one of the biggest failures also in our society today are churches. Churches saying that they don't want to actually get involved because it's political. And we have, in California, my home state, the transgender bill for kids, allowing that state to take away kids from their parents when they think they're a different gender, and you completely remove the parent from the child. Churches stay quiet because they don't want to lose their tax exempt status. I remember I would go to church and I couldn't tell people that I worked at the White House or for Trump, because our worship leader would say stuff like, I can go to bed or I can go to sleep at night knowing I didn't vote for that man. And I finally changed to a church who literally during the COVID, they shut everything down. They weren't going to follow government rules. They did for like the first 2 weeks because we were all in a crazy place. But at the end of that, they put a recall Governor Newsom poll or booth outside their church because they're like, we're going to be leading culture, not following culture. And I think if churches actually took that stance, we'd see a whole different country right now. But instead, they're bowing down to this woke left ideology.
Does that help you, Tom?
Yeah, that was awesome. I'm just going to take this. I'm just going to rip this and put it on my
go
side,
for
right?
it. Go for it. Charles, I think, is the one that mentioned, Trump's going to be on Joe Rogan Friday. I wanted to ask you, so just again, does anyone think that, I know there was an initial rumor that Kamala might do it. You guys, Charles, do you think that she will in the last, so if he does it Friday, 12/11, in the final 10 days, do you think she shows up on Joe Rogan?
No, I don't think she does, because I think that it doesn't check enough boxes for her. I mean, if you look at the show she's doing, it's got to have there's got to be a gender angle and a race angle, and it's got to be of some sort of progressive bent. And again, I just don't think that she can bend herself into enough places. Joe Rogan is not an easy show to do.
No, that's the other thing. He's not easy. Yeah.
And he's going to ask those questions. I mean, I think that Brett Baer interview the other week was a total joke. It was, I think, a giant middle finger to people and voters, particularly, who wanted to see her actually answer some questions. They did not get anything out of that. I don't think that she does it. And I've been dealing with Kamala Harris since 2010. I am too a Californian. In 2010, we ran Steve Cooley against her for Attorney General. That year, we lost by 1/9 of 1 percentage point, which was the closest loss of a candidate in California history. Kamala then chose to throw herself the biggest swearing-in party in California electoral history. She is literally failing upwards. You cannot word salad yourself through Joe Rogan. I mean, it's a waste of time for her, and I don't think that community and that demographic is going to respond positively.
Hilton, what do you think?
I mean, I want to see her go on just for the content purposes, but
I think we all do.
I mean, golly. Also, too, because Joe Rogan's known for smoking weed, right? I wonder if
Oh, maybe she would. Hey, you get high.
that crossed my mind. I feel like that may be the only reason she went on. But I know I don't see her doing it. The Fox interview was too much of a fail, and you have to have an actual point of view to go on Joe Rogan. That's the whole reason for the show. That's why people love it, because he wants to, dig into your thoughts about whatever your shtick is. Kamala Harris is known as a chameleon. I don't know I think she would be all over the place, and it would just do her harm.
Tom?
Yeah, I mentioned this on the Ground Game pod a couple days ago, and I really I'm watching for how Rogan performs. I want to see how he handles it. And, I mean, granted, he's not a traditional, straight ahead journalist, but he is conducting a news interview here. And I want to see, in the past, he has gone out there and, said that Trump has unregulated adult ADD. He's taken a couple pot shots before. I want to see if he presses him. Does he do the Brett Baer the Brett Baer to Kamala Harris? Or does he do the Howard Stern to Kamala Harris? And that's a big question, because you remember about, what was it, like a year ago, when things were still kind of dicey in the primary? It looked like there might be an opening for DeSantis to hold on. I remember Roger Stone was out there pushing real hard in public. I think it was a Daily Beast story saying that that Rogan has to have Trump on, that it has to happen. And, back then he was holding back. Now he's doing it, arguably at the exact right time. I mean, and potentially an October surprise to the extent there still can be those things. I'm very interested to see how Rogan handles the interview.
Real quick, Trump's going to Madison Square Garden this weekend, so he'll do Joe Rogan Friday. I think Sunday night is Madison Square Garden. If Kamala Harris called you and just said, I need to, like he did the McDonald's thing, he did Rogan, now he's doing Madison Square Garden. I need to do something iconic, game-changing in the final 10 days. Give me something I should do. Charles, what would you tell her could be game-changing, iconic on her side?
Go do an hour sit down with a news anchor who's not on her side, that's not pre-scripted, that's real and authentic. And I don't know how you would even verify it.
Yeah.
But that's the most important thing she has to do. Everybody in this country knows that she is literally skating through this. I mean, this is the 2024 version of campaigning from your basement. She's not actually giving interviews. This is in 2020, it was, we're not letting them out. It's all from your basement, but we have COVID as a cover. This year, we're not doing any real interviews. She's not done a single real interview in this election cycle. That would be the game changer for her, is if she actually, and people believe, okay, this is going to be a hard-hitting interview, this is going to be real, that there is independent verification, that like no questions.
You don't think the Brett Baer interview covered that? Baer was, I mean, frankly, I thought Baer it did a great job, cutting in constantly.
Yeah, except it was 20 minutes long.
20 minutes. Yeah, and she stopped him.
Trump is doing multi-hour sit-down interviews. I mean,
Patrick Bet David the other day was like an hour and 20 minutes. All right, we end Thursday with winners and losers. Tom, give me your winner and your loser. We've got a couple minutes just to get through them.
Okay, let's see. How about I wrote this at 24 site, and I stand by it. I think Harris still has the edge in this thing. Absolutely. I know this is not the audience for it, but I look at the fundamentals. I think that
I don't know what. Maybe you're the one smoking the weed at Joe Rogan, because I don't know what fundamentals you're looking at. But
when I show up on the Rogan show,
okay.
No, but I do think.
All right, who's your loser then?
Loser right now. Oh boy. Geez.
All right, I'm going to Charles. I'll let you think about it.
I'll have one on the other side.
Charles, who's your winner and your loser?
Winner is the RNC and the ground game operation. This is these early vote numbers are amazing. Looking at the counties of Pennsylvania, what Scott Pressler has done to flip these counties. My sister lives in Bucks County. I'm watching that. Swamp the vote worked. The party changed the message from 2020. People are showing up early to vote, and they're getting it done. These turnout numbers are great. That is an enthusiasm bump we need going into it. Kudos to Laura and Mike and everybody at the RNC who successfully changed the messaging. Loser of the week, Jill Biden, literally having to go up there and say, oh, it's time to move on, and this is good that we're not running again. Come on. Everybody knew that you were the biggest enabler of him running again, and hid his mental and physical decline for this country and the world for the last 4 years. And you just had to go up there and just go do that. That's sad.
All right. Hilton, I need a winner and a loser.
Okay, winner, loser, the same people for two different reasons.
What's up?
It's Kuntz and Kinzinger. Did you guys see this? Shooting a rifle 10 yards away, shooting a steel plate with a rifle, and the bullet bounced off and hit a reporter, and the reporter started bleeding. I just feel like they're both winners and losers, because winner, they proved yet again that Democrats cannot take the gun messaging. They just can't take that gun messaging. They're horrible at it, and they clearly lose at it. And it's crazy that they're both veterans as well, and they were shooting that close a distance with a rifle. And then the losers because the reporter got shot. So.
Wow.
Oh, I got the loser. I got.
You guys didn't see this?
I did. No.
Right. My friend Dana Lash, who you all know, like tweeted, and now I get what she tweeted, because it was anyway. If you go look at her tweets, it's these targets that you can use, and now I get why she tweeted it. Anyway, Tom, give me your loser quick.
Loser is polling aggregators. When this started like 16 years ago or whatever, we used to have a smaller sample, and in academics and statistics, when you feed things in, that's pretty unruly to begin with. I predict, and I hate these friggin' prognosticators. I just hate it. I think it's worthless because you have a real result. It's called the election.
Okay.
All right.
I'll tell you what. I will tell you this.
polling
We may
aggregators.
disagree on the polling, but I will tell you, I did the road to 270 yesterday. Donald Trump is going to win and decisively. So I feel bad for your predictions and your polling. My winner of the week is McDonald's. I just feel like they got so much great press. And I don't, I mean, there's some health issues, so please don't take that wrong. But like, you couldn't have scripted this better. You got both people talking about McDonald's and whether they work there and going there and da 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 da. I mean, they won a PR thing, except for the E. coli. Just to be clear, I'm not talking about the E. coli. Just talking about the PR of everyone wanting to visit there. My loser of the week is the inverse of what Charles said. I think Kamala's ground game, which is that everybody was touting for a while how this is awesome. How do you explain how bad you're doing? If it's this awesome and everyone was crapping all over Trump and the RNC and third party and outsourcing, and it's like, how do you explain how great you are when you're losing a state like Nevada in the early vote? I'm not saying they're going to lose it. I'm just saying you're clearly not as great as you thought you would. All right. Thank you guys for being here. What a great discussion that we had today. Reminder, as I said, sign up for that Substack that we do, SeanSpicer.com. You get all the free insights. We got a big election night plan, so bookmark the show. Hit the notification button now. Great show coming your way tomorrow. Roger Stone, Newt Gingrich are going to be on the show. It's going to be awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Always, the morning meeting at 9, 6 o'clock for the show. Thanks for being here. We'll see you back. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.